Stranded on a deserted island, you've got a lot to handle. Sourcing food, finding water, building a shelter, making fire, and signaling for help. Sounds impossible for one person, right? Life would be much easier if you had a survival buddy. But what if that friend is totally useless, like Wilson in Castaway? You'd be far better off befriending a drone. In this series, we'll unravel the tech that makes it into the ideal survival ally and explain how it helps in real life. Wood, a resource you can't go without on a deserted island. Essential for fire, building shelter, but also for tools, for rafts, and for rope. But they all require different types of wood. It may be hard to identify suitable tree species, and once you've run short on them,
That's all that's left.
you'll spend days scouting the island with no result,
Checked over the whole island, and that is all that's left.
leaving you as exhausted as a day spent talking to a volleyball. Can you imagine how much easier this would be if you had a drone equipped with a multispectral camera?
In a simple multispectral camera, there are 4 bands, so they measure the reflectance of the light in the green, red edge, and near infrared spectrum. So every species has a very characteristic reflectance in these bands. So by looking at the different spectral signature of each species, we can identify which species is what.
So let me show you how to use this drone with a multispectral camera to find different types of wood in a real survival situation. So we can use the different indices, for example, the green NDVI or the NDVI, or there's many other indices. To recognize certain patterns for a specific tree species. And this way we can determine that the one tree, for example, or the one canopy is this type of tree and the other is another species.
Of course, you always have to have some data from the ground, so you have to train, let's say, your classifier, your model. You have to tell them this spectral signature is from a pine, this is from an oak. But once you give some initial data, then it's able to tell you all the other trees that you have not visited yet, what kind of species they are.
So this is a color palette for the so-called green NDVI that uses the green and the near-infrared band to produce information. So some trees are much more red. These are the ones that currently still have leaves on them. And we have all the other trees that don't have so much, let's say, vital vegetation or vital leaves on it. And they appear yellow because they have a lower green NDVI index score.
And combining all the information from the different indices helps to identify which tree belongs to which species. But what is this information used for in real life?
In the Netherlands, we used to detect species on mixed forests. So we are investigating how with drones we can make maps of where the different species are. In other Mediterranean areas, like in Portugal and in Spain, but other areas across Europe, we are using drones to monitor the impacts of grazing. In rewilding areas, there are grazers and browsers introduced, like in rewilding Europe sites. So we are looking how they are changing the landscape. We are taking images in the beginning of the introduction of these animals. And after a few years, we want to see how they are open up the landscape and therefore increase the heterogeneity of the landscape and increase the biodiversity of reptiles, amphibians, insects, and so on. When it comes to animals, it's also very interesting to try to detect animals that are very difficult to find. So we use sensors for animals that have a very low contrast in relation to the environment. Or in some cases, you also want to know the number of these animals. And then we also try to estimate the abundance, the density and the abundance of the animals. And in that sense, there's also very interesting research field with drones.
So multispectral cameras have many important real-world applications. But going back to our situation on the deserted island, Do you have any advice for Florian on what types of wood to look for?
Probably find maybe pine wood, because it's very easily to have fire. Even the cones of pines are flammable. They have resin, so you can easily start a fire. And in that way, I would already establish a pile of wood that, in case I see a boat approaching the island, I could light a fire and I could let them know that I'm there. You know?
So these are all the pine trees. Everything that is green is actually pines, and everything else is some other kind of tree. And that's where we can go to collect some pine cones. Well, there's definitely enough pine cones here. Now I just have to figure out how to actually start this fire.
So once this is established, then I can start working on the quality of my life in the island. Building a hut, find some palm trees where with the leaves I can protect myself from rain, protect my drone. You know, if there are no boats coming to rescue me, then maybe I could start thinking of a way out myself.
And what would you need for that?
Oaks, different species of oaks are very good for building boats. Cypress are very straight, the trunks are very straight.
We'll pass your message on to Florian, but I don't think he'll get to demonstrating it all today.